Good morning, friends, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kristen. I'm the maker behind this little corner of the internet, DoSo Knits, where I share with you guys how knitting and other fiber crafts have woven into my life. Today is episode 68 of my knitting podcast, where I share with you finished objects, works in progress, and all of that kind of fun stuff. It's been a little while since I've recorded. I've been a little off of my normal 2-week schedule. Work has just been a little crazy, and with the long weekend, last weekend of Memorial Day, we went up to the mountains and just kind of relaxed. And so we're back this weekend, and I figured I would record with you guys because I have some exciting things to show you. So just a little admin at the beginning that I'd like to get out of the way is if you'd like to follow me other places, I am DoSo Knits here on Instagram, YouTube, and Ravelry. And then down in the description box below is links to my Ravelry project pages. I include show notes that if you need to jump around, it's all down there. So make sure you check that out if there's anything you'd like to get a little more information on. Also, I'd just like to note that I am trying out a slightly different angle today. I did a little rearranging in my office. So this wall behind me used to be where my computer desk was, but I've now moved it over here, and then over there was where my yarn was. So we're trying out a slightly different angle. So the background is a little bit different. I also have a new chair that's a little more comfortable to sit in for recording, so I'm also trying that. So I'm a little higher up than normal, but I think this background is going to be a little bit of a work in progress because obviously there's still a lot of stuff that can go on back there. So yeah, we're trying out something new, trying out a new angle. I still like my yarn to be behind me, so that's why I tried to still move over here, but I still have some decorating up top above the shelf that I need to do. But yeah, just trying out something a little new. I really like the new layout in my office. It feels like it opened up a lot of space. So hopefully that will be good. But with that, I do have quite a few fun things to show you. So we'll go ahead and move into what I finished since the last episode. So the first finished object I have to talk about is what I am wearing today. So this is the Bonfire Tee, which is a pattern by Samantha Guerin that I tested, and I just found this off a few nights ago and I love it. So it is a colorwork round yoke tee. This is knit and fingering weight yarn. The gauge is, I think it was 24 stitches over 4 inches. I can double check. And I believe last time I talked mostly about just how I gauge swatch, the different color combinations I was thinking of, but I am very, very excited about the colors that I ended up doing. So yes, this is a 24 stitch over 4 inches gauge, so 6 stitches per inch, knit and fingering weight yarn. I used Holstgarn Super Soft, which comes in these little pucks. And Holstgarn has pretty decent yardage, so this is a 50-gram cake when I first grabbed it. I did use a little bit of this to finish this off. So they are 50 grams and 314 yards per that 50 grams, but they do have this spinning oil still in the skein, which is why I think it's a little thinner, but it does pluff up to more of a fingering weight gauge. It is very lightweight though, but for the main color, this is Navy Heather, and then for the contrast color, this is what I have left. It is the colorway Glacier. So Whole Super Soft is 100% wool. I really, really enjoy this yarn. So I held these together and then I knit my tee. So overall, I only needed 1 skein of the contrast color. And then for my size, I did the size 48 roughly, and then I used 4 skeins of the main color. And this is my 4th one, and I just broke into it just a little bit, mostly to do the hem on the bottom of this shirt. So Modifications, I didn't make too many. The main one was, instead of casting on at the top of the collar and then going down, is I cast on after the collar, knit down, and then went back and picked up my collar and then knit up, just so I have a little more control over how wide it looks. I ended up doing the collar to the recommended length in the pattern, so that didn't change too much. However, for my sleeves, I did shorten them by quite a bit. I shortened them by a few inches. I think it's written more to be closer to like an elbow length kind of sleeve, but I really like my short sleeve shirts to kind of hit mid bicep, so I did not do as many rounds there. I did go up a needle size when I was doing my color work because I have that changing gauge that people sometimes talk about. So for the main body, I used a, let me think. Okay, so I wrote it on my pattern in my knitting app. So I use the app called Row Counter to keep track of my patterns, all digitally, has counters, and you can notate on the pattern what you did. So I will do that before I put all my notes in my Ravelry project page, because sometimes I'm just working on the pattern and then I go transcribe my notes into Ravelry later. But it called for a US 3 for the body. I used a US 4. I think because this yarn is a bit thin, I had to go up just a little bit to get the stitches to be a little bit looser. So I used a US 4 for the main body. And then for the color work, Samantha actually calls for you to use a US 5. I ended up going to a US 6 in order to get the gauge that was nice and loose. So US 6 for the color work, US 4 for the main body, and then for the collars, they were US 3s for all the hems. And yeah, I did do ladder back jacquard in between these longer floats here. It was my first time doing that. I think it blocked out pretty well. I do have a few loose stitches here and there, but overall I think it worked pretty well. I also did add some short row bust starts just to help lower the front a little bit. And then I'll show you kind of where the length is. So this is kind of where the t-shirt hits on me. I did slightly past my belly button, but not full length, a semi-cropped kind of length. It's pretty similar to the length that's in the pattern that Samantha calls for. And one thing I really like is I think this fabric is really, really drapey, which is why I wanted to use the holst. And you can kind of see the back versus the front. I think those short rows helped lower the front just a smidge, so it fits nicely. I think with a little bit of time, it will pull down a little bit. Right now, I do think it's flaring out a smidge, but I literally blocked this yesterday. I pulled it off the blocking mats, put it on for this to record. But overall, I think it's such a cute shirt. But yeah, overall, this was my first ever fingering weight top that I've ever knit. I really like the weight of this. It's so comfortable. Can definitely see it as something I'm gonna wear a lot this spring. We'll see how it fares in the summer. I know some people have mentioned that in warmer weather, when you start to sweat a little bit, the wool, you might feel it a bit more. So I'm interested to see if that happens. The thing is I mostly work from home, and when I do go into the office, I usually go in 2 days a week and then I work from home the rest of the time. When I'm in the office is freezing. So I think this would be a really nice kind of work top. I think it fits like a nice t-shirt, but it looks really nice. So I think I'll be able to wear it as like a office option. I love this detail. I think color work is so fun and eye-catching, and I think it's hard to find. I don't know, personally, not many color works to yokes scream spring or summer to me, but I really like this one in a short sleeve shirt. I think it looks really nice. It's fun. It reminds me of like a crown. I don't know. I really like how it looks. I think it's really flattering, and I'm really happy with the monochrome that I did. with the two blues. I think it just looks classic. I think I'll be able to pair it with a lot of things. And I'm excited to have knit my first fingering weight option. And another thing is, because I swatched for this and I tested out a few different gauges, I think I'm going to also start another shirt called the Moonset Tee by Ozetta. I have another sweater quantity of this yarn, the whole Scarn Super Soft, in like a dark green. And the first gauge that I hit with this yarn is actually the same gauge in that Ozetta pattern. So I don't think I'll have to swatch again. And when I'm ready, I'll be able to cast that on, because I just really like this fabric. It feels really nice, and I am itching to start another t-shirt. And I do have some more sweater summer plans. I guess it's not really sweater plans, it's summer plans, but shirts, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in works in progress. But yeah, this is my first finished object, my Bonfire Tee by Samantha Guerin. This was a test. It is out Wednesday, June 5th. So make sure you check out Samantha's Instagram, or if you're on her newsletter, she normally includes some sort of promotion for new patterns. So even if you're not ready to cast it on and you don't want to buy the pattern yet, go to Ravelry, like the pattern, check out all the different testers. I haven't seen all of them yet because I'm recording this a little before the pattern comes out, but I'm sure they're all gorgeous. So make sure you go check those out. And yeah, I highly recommend this pattern. I think it was a good color work beginner one. There are some longer floats, but it was a nice practice for the ladder back jacquard. And then once you're past the color work, it's just stockinette around and around and around. So I did this a lot. I worked on it a lot during meetings because it was just stockinette around and around, and it actually was really, really helpful to keep my hands busy. All right, so I have another finished garment to share with you, and this is my Stockholm Slipover by Petite Knit. I have finished this. Isn't it gorgeous? So I knit this with Leading Men Fiber Arts on their BFL base. I still have one skein left over. So I originally started with 3 skeins of this, and I only used 2. So this is the Spotlight base. The colorway is Marauder. It's 400 yards, 80% BFL, superwash, and 20% nylon. And I held it with Barocco Aerial, which is a mohair silk blend by Barocco, lace weight. Held those together to knit this. This was a really loose gauge. I think I knit this on like a US 6, and it knit up pretty quickly, and also the drape on this is also really nice. So I still need to get some finished object photos of this, but overall I follow the pattern pretty exactly for this. I think the only modifications I made is I added vertical bust darts just to add a little more room, and I don't think I made many other modifications. I think mine is a little bit shorter, but I just tried it on as I went, figure out the length that I wanted. I wanted this slipover to pair well with like jeans or like long sleeve shirts. Not necessarily dresses. If I was going to do it with dresses, I probably would have cropped it a bit more. But you start at the shoulders, knit the back portion, do the armhole shaping down, put that on waste yarn, go back, you pick up at the shoulders, and it's pretty invisible, the pickup, but then you go, you shape for the front neckline, knit down until you're ready to join in the round, and then it's just stuck in the round for this. You switch to smaller needles, do the hem. I did a sewn bind off, then you go back, pick up the hem around the armholes and the hem around the neck and bind those off. So I'll try it on. It's gonna look a little funny over my t-shirt because they don't necessarily go together. But this is kind of the length that it'll hit. I imagine just wearing this even with like leggings like this or longer sleeves or even maybe a t-shirt. I think it'll look really cute. And yeah, the armhole is a bit low, but that's kind of the point of the pattern. But overall, I think it's really cute. I think it's really fuzzy. It's not too fuzzy, which is something I've mentioned about the Barocco mohairs. It doesn't feel like super fuzzy compared to some. And this was just a joy to knit, honestly. It would have been a faster project if I worked on it pretty more monogamously than I did, but the gauge is really loose. And like I mentioned, I think it was a US 6 that I knitted on. I can look. So I used a US 6 and a US 7 for this pattern. I also have started, when I knit flat, I go up or I go down a needle size in order to compensate for my pearls being a little bit looser. So when I was in the round, I did it on a US 7, and then when I was knitting flat, I did a US 6. But yeah, that was the overall pattern. Yeah, shortened it a little bit. I did also, when it came to picking up the armholes, I did not pick up the amount that was in the pattern because I think I was supposed to pick up a lot more than I did. I basically just went around and picked up what was comfortable and made sure it was an even number so that I could do the 1x1 ribbing. But overall, I'm really happy with this. I know this won't get much wear now. This will definitely be a summer item or a not summer item, more for the fall. But it was really nice to be able to get some skeins out of my stash, and it did knit up pretty quickly when I was working on it. Because the gauge, you'll see, the gauge I had was almost 5 stitches an inch. It was 4.94 when you look at my math technically. But overall, I used 3 skeins of the Barocco Ariel, so about 70 grams of mohair. And then for the main skein, which was the fingering weight from Leading Men Fiber, I used 188 grams or 752 yards. So I used less than what was called for my size, which again, I did a 48-ish roughly. I think I did do some math with mine. My gauge was a little different, so I knit either a size smaller or larger. I knit the 2XL in order to get roughly a 47.5 inch bust, which I don't think is what's called for in the pattern. I think that size in the pattern is supposed to be a little bit bigger, but my gauge was a little bit tighter. And yeah, that is my Stockholm Slipover. I'm very excited about it. Alright, so I have another finished object to show you. It's been a productive couple of weeks, to be fair. So this is a pair of vanilla socks that I knit for Shane, and I just finished these this morning. So these are knit with Knit Picks Felici, which is their self-striping sock yarn. Well, it was. It's no longer available now. They now have Felici, which is thinner stripes. And I've heard that it's a slightly different feel. The Felici feels really soft and nice and lovely to work on. It's a very plump fingering weight, but this was the colorway Painted Hills. They come in 50 gram skeins, so I used this for Shane, just 1 skein, and this is how much yarn I have left. So I have about 10 grams left, but I do hold a different color for the heel. So this is Knit Picks Stroll, and I use that for the pop of color, the heel, and the toe. And I made both socks match. So the pattern that I use for these is the Coffee Order Socks by Lindsay Fowler. It's just kind of a pick your favorite shorty sock kind of pattern. Has lots of different options for you to pick between different cuffs and heels. I don't know about the toes. I didn't really use it for the toe. But I did the folded over cuff. So you cast on, knit, and then I switched so I could do the pop of color. and then you pick up and bind off your cast on edge. So I did that for these, and then you knit a little bit for the leg. Then I did a slip stitch heel flap. For Shane, I do 60 stitches around. So for the heel flap, I just increased 2 stitches across the back evenly so that the heel flap was over 32 stitches. Then a normal heel turn that's in her pattern, decrease the gusset stitches out, and then I just switched to this contrast color when I finished this color, and then it was about 4 rounds before the length was good to start the toe decreases. And normally I like to do a few rounds before starting the toe decreases because I think it just makes the toe look a little longer. Sometimes the toe I think can look a little short, so just adding like an extra ½ inch of plain knitting before doing the decreases, I like how that looks aesthetically. But yeah, I knit these shorty socks for Shane because he needs more shorty socks. I think this colorway is really fun. He said it reminded him of like classic Columbia colors. The name from Felici was Painted Hills, but I think partially, I don't know, it reminds me of like a nice summer. It just feels like nice summery colors. So these became my meeting socks once I finished my Bonfire Tee. Once I finished the decreases, this was just round and around knitting. I worked on it a bit yesterday. We had some errands to run, so I just took these with me when I was riding in the car, when we went out to lunch, and they were just a lot of fun to work on. I did magic loop for these on a US one, which is a bit different, but I like magic loop in order to do the heel flap and gusset. It makes it just a little more comfortable. But yeah, I need to get photos of these. I need to post them for summer sock camp, which is a knit along that KALs is hosting. There's also the make along from 72 Stitches, which is knit all the stripes. So any self-striping sock yarn that you have, you can use it for that. So I plan to post these for that knit along. These did overlap a couple of months. They were kind of just my backup pair of socks, but I'm excited they're done. I have planned that this summer is going to be my summer of shorty socks. I want to start a pair of socks for myself now. I want to do shorty socks because that's what both of us are lacking. And I feel like every time it gets to the summer, I think, wow, I really should have more shorty socks. And I have a good amount, but I could use more. So I plan to do that. I do really like the heel flap for shorty socks. So we'll have to see. I'm undecided on my pair of socks if I'm going to do a short row heel or a heel flap. But yeah, these are the socks for Shane. So I have one more finished object that I want to show you before moving on to works in progress. And this was an embroidery that I finished from Cozy Blue. I'm part of her stitch club every month. So you get the thread and the pre-printed fabric every month. And I finally finished this one and I framed it. So this was like a moon pattern with, sorry, I have to tilt it from the light. But with leaves, I really liked it. So overall, I picked up these 10 by 10 frames on Amazon, and then I ordered some mats with a 6-inch circle cutout so that I could frame it. I sometimes frame them in the embroidery hoops. That's what I've done for a lot of them. But for some of these, I just want a little more versatility of being able to switch them out. And because the thing is once you frame it in one of the embroidery hoops, you cut that fabric around the edge in order to cinch it up, so it's really hard to pop it into a frame if you wanted to later. So I just wanted this as an option. I picked up the frames from Amazon and then did pay a little bit for the custom mats, but I just ordered them from a mat store online. It was a 9-pack of the frames, and I just kind of want to do like a little gallery wall with some of my embroidery coming up. I really loved working on this one. I really liked the pattern. You do a lot of the fishbone stitch to do the leaves, and that took a very long time. But I'm really liking working on embroidery lately, and with that we'll move into my works in progress and I can show you my current embroidery project. So I started my next month of my Cozy Blue Stitch Club. Also, we went to IKEA last weekend and they had this little basket and I thought it would be perfect for all my embroidery. So I did pick this up and it is amazing. So this is the previous month's Stitch Club and I'm finally getting around to working on it, and I started it last night and it's this Cosmic Poppies. And I think I saw Cozy Blue is putting this PDF on her website, so that'll be available. But I started this last night. I did all the French knots for this one, did all the inner bits of the poppies. I think I just have to finish the French knots on this one, and then I'll start working the poppies around. This one is not necessarily my aesthetic, as you might guess. However, I do have a recipient in mind for this one. So I think this one I might end up framing in a 6-inch embroidery hoop. I bought like a 20 pack from Amazon because I knew I was going to be doing this club a lot. But when I'm doing the stitching, I stitch it in a 7-inch hoop just because sometimes when you stitch in a 6-inch hoop, this is a 6-inch design, and sometimes it's really hard to do the stitches right near the edge. So I like stitching in a little bit of a bigger hoop. And then on here you can see this is my needle minder from Simply Serving. It's one of the moth ones. It's one of, I think it's maybe one of 2 stitch minders I have, but it's really the only one I use. It's my favorite. So I have all my supplies in here. I have extra needles. I really love the Bohin embroidery needles. I tried using some of the ones that I'd gotten from Joann. I think they were like DMC brand or something, and they just like popped the fabric and I did not like it. I also have these Merchant & Mills tiny scissors. And then when you get the Stitch Club, it all comes in this little package. So the fabric comes folded up in this, and then you have all the thread that they supply. But I am changing it up a little bit. The outside of the poppies is going to be this really light pink. And then like the inner part of the poppies are supposed to be this, it's like an orangey rust, which I think would look really pretty. However, I really like, if you can see in the poppies, like that dark mauvey lines. So I went through my embroidery stash yesterday and I picked out these 2 colors. I'm thinking I'm leaning toward this color. So the outside of the poppies is going to be this really light pink, and then this is going to be the color I use for the lines, just because I want it more monochrome. But that's what I like about embroidery. It's really, I don't know, I think it's nice to see, like all of this I did last night, I think during 1, maybe 2 episodes of television. I've been watching 911. Well, I think I watched 1 episode of 911 and I watched a podcast on YouTube. And so that was like an hour and a half of work, and it's just fun to see it stitch up. I think it can be like, oh, what do I use all these for? Which is something I'm, you know, thinking through. I have a few framed on my wall over there, and I could see just like a giant wall of embroidery designs would be really pretty. But also like this one, when I think of it, I have someone in mind that I think this would look really nice in their house, and I think they would enjoy it. So being able to gift them as well, I think is fun. So I'm just enjoying these. I don't know, something about summer and warmer weather reminds me of embroidery, and I really like that club from Cozy Blue because it's like $13 a month for a new design. You get the fabric and the thread. You just have to supply the needles and a hoop. And I really like it. Of the 4 months I've gotten, I think I've finished 2, started the 3rd, and the 4th one I haven't started yet. But yeah, that's my embroidery work in progress that I started last night. I think this one's going to go very quickly compared to all the fishbone leaves on the previous one. I think this one's gonna go quick. So my next work in progress is a bit of a doozy. This is my Eastwind jacket, which I have been working on for quite a while, but I've made decent progress. So it's been a while since I shared, so I will do a quick summary. This is a worsted weight-ish pattern. I'm using a DK held with a mohair in order to get my main fabric. It is knit in pieces. I have finished the front left and the front right pieces, and now I am working on the back right and the back left pieces. This is a warm work in progress. So what I've been trying to do, since it's now warm outside, I haven't wanted to work on this as much. So I've been trying to employ the 30 minutes a day, 4 rounds a day. I just try to do a little bit on it a day. And when I do pick it up, I still do really enjoy it. So this is the progress on my back 2 pieces. So I am knitting them 2 at a time. It is curling, so it's kind of hard to show the full length of what I have. But it has this cable in the middle, and then these will be seamed up the back. As you can see, I do have some stitch markers here, and I'm just using that to kind of hold the knitting together. Because since I'm knitting them 2 at a time, I will knit across one piece and then drop my yarn, pick up the yarn, and start across the next piece. So when I didn't have these little stitch markers kind of holding them together, a lot of cord would pull through. So this just kind of keeps them together as I'm sliding my work across the needles. They kind of slide together, and that has really helped. This marker, I think, is what I've done kind of within the last week over picking it up. That does have a pretty loose gauge, so it does work up quickly when I do work on it, kind of. The 4 rows can take about an hour, but it's because some of the rows there's this texture to do these cross stitches, there's the cable, which I sometimes have to do, and then purling back. I think I'm getting close to where I'll add the armpit gusset, and then we'll cast on for the sleeves, which will really increase the number of stitches on my needles. But it'll be okay. It's like a drop shoulder design, so it's you work for a little bit, do the increases, and then you cast on for the sleeve, and then you knit up the sleeve, and then do a decrease for the shoulder seams. And yeah, I think if I could just continue working on this a little bit at a time. I mostly just don't want to put it in hibernation so that my gauge doesn't change drastically. So I think just working on it a little bit here and there will bode well. And also I'd like to just have it for when the weather changes to cold again. So you do cast on with a contrasting color, and I have kind of all my yarn in my lap. So it is I'll show you the yarn. So the mohair I'm using is Rowan Kid Silk Haze in the colorway Smoke. This is 70% mohair, 30% silk. Each one is 25 grams total, and they are 230 yards. And this is what I was saying, compared to the Barocco Ariel, the Rowan Kid Silk, I think is a lot fuzzier. There's a lot more, whoops, I dropped my stitch markers. There's a lot more fuzz off of this mohair than there was on the Barocco. So this one I think is going to be a bit warmer. It's definitely like you can feel it flying off. And then for the main colors, this is my not Rowan. This is West Yorkshire Spinners Jacob's DK. This is the main color, and this is the contrasting color. This is used for the hems and the inner lining of my pockets. This is what it looks like in the skein. So these are DK, 246 yards, 100 grams, and they are 100% Jacob's wool. So it's definitely a like rustic feeling, sheep smelling wool. I think it'll be really, really nice. I do need to cake up a few more skeins for this, and yeah, it will come with time, I think. This is not one that I'm feeling rushed to finish. But I am using my new chip Fiber Hustle. I think it's the chip sack. This is the large size. Ebony's hair is all over this because she really likes to lay on it. But it like is really sturdy. I have my 2 front pieces in here finished. And then I usually have all the yarn kind of sitting on top. And I put this in. And then the cinch at the top. The only thing I would change about this is I wish the cinch actually closed completely at the top because Ebony likes to climb in this bag. So that would be my only modification, is I wish these actually met in the middle when you cinched it closed. But this is so big that it could fit in one of my IKEA cubes. So maybe if I ever clear out a cube, I would throw this in there. But I really like this bag. It's gonna go just downstairs now near the couch because this is a project that only gets worked on at home. So this is not a bag that I would recommend necessarily for out and about because it's a little sturdy and a little large, but for downstairs and for storing in the house and for doing such a large project like this, which you probably wouldn't take out of your house anyway, it's perfect. And I love this print so much. So that is my Eastwind jacket. That is a long work in progress, but one that's just keeping me company, and I will have for the winter this year. I will have it for this winter, which is really exciting because I've wanted it for many previous winters. Okay, so my next work in progress is a fun one, and one that I bet you've seen from other people. And because I finished my Scrappy Corner to Corner blanket, this was the project that I was like, once I finish my Scrappy Corner to Corner, I'm allowed to start this one. So literally the day that I bound off, finished my Scrappy Corner to Corner, I started this project. So this is the Jelly Roll Blanket by Kay Jones, and I'm just using my multitude of mini skeins that I have to work on this project. So I am doing the DK weight version. So I am holding fingering weight double, and I'm doing 16 stitches, which is what's written in the pattern. I'm using a US 4 16-inch circular, and I'll show you where I'm at. So I cast on, and as you can see, I am on my second strip, but I finished the first strip. And this is where my first strip continues. So down to here. This is roughly 6 feet, I think. So when I stand up and put it on the ground, yeah. I kind of just wanted it long enough for one person, and then I'll continue making it wide enough for like a single person blanket. But currently I'm working on this color. So right now I'm currently working through my leftovers from my Nora George Harry Potter mini skein club that I was in, which I used a lot of those in a granny square blanket, but I'm also working through my row 1 minis as well. Most of them are 10 or 20 grams, but obviously there are a few like this one, which is short. But the main thing that I'm focusing on in this project is when I start the second strip or start another strip, I just make sure that I'm not changing roughly at the same point. I want all my changes to be within other rectangles. And then I'm just making sure that I'm not doing 2 of the same colors beside each other. So just making sure that like, I didn't want this one really close to this one. Things like that. But that's basically it. I have all of my, it's living kind of in this basket. And then I have the mini skeins that I've pulled. There's still so many more, but I just pulled a few. And it's in a bag from Les Garçons. This was from the Mystery Podcaster, so it's the Kevin and Ray bag. But this is because Ebony never plays with yarn except for when they're things like this, little balls. She loves playing with them, so I don't trust her. So I pull out the one color I'm working on, and then the other colors that I'm kind of choosing between are in here. So just to kind of keep them safe from mischievous cats. But yeah, in a tiny basket. I picked this up down in Manitou Springs. I love baskets like this, and this one's nice for a blanket. So this is just kind of working on it when I can. I, like last night, was working on it because I had finished this and wasn't ready to cast on a new project. So this is just a really nice garter stitch. Doesn't take a lot of thought. It'll be on my needles for quite a long time, but I'm very excited about it. And I don't know, everyone says, you know, it's really addictive, it's really fun. And I was like, well, I don't know. It is. It's so fun to just like work through a color, see like, oh, I'll just continue knitting till I'm done with this color. And then you knit for hours. So it's really fun. I really enjoy it. And I'm excited that it's going to be on my needles for a while and kind of just be a back burner project. And it's just fun to work through some of my mini skeins because I have like for my scraps I have just like a storage, like those drawer storage. I got some from Target. All my full skeins are here, and all my mini skeins and scraps go in those drawers. And I have about 2 large drawers full of mini skeins or advent skeins, skeins from swaps with a friend. So my goal is to work through my mini skeins first. I don't really plan to use this for like my advents because the one advent that I still have over there is a gradient. So I want to do one blanket for that one. I think I'm going to do the Helen Stewart blanket that I had started and then ripped out. But I think I'm going to start that one again eventually. And then my other advent is a non-superwash, so I don't want to use that in a blanket. But yeah, I would like to just clear through some of those drawers. That was kind of the goal with the scrappy corner to corners, to kind of clear out leftovers from doing the sock knit along for 3 years. And so now I'd like to get through the mini skeins that I have acquired from doing row 1, Patreon for a homespun house. I just have lots of mini skeins. And the reason I started collecting them at first was because like, oh, they'll be great for heels and toes and cuffs and socks or contrast colors, which they are. However, I definitely acquire them more than I pop them into heels, toes, and cuffs. So if I could get through a few of them, that would be dandy. So then I have one new work in progress to show you. And this is in my Bearded Pearl bag. It's just kind of been my go-to sweater bag recently. That's what I had this in. But this is another test knit for Samantha Guerin. When she posted this test knit, I messaged her and said, I need, like, what is your schedule for these upcoming designs? Because I need to be able to plan because they're so good. But this is going to be the Seagrass Tank. It's going to be a tank top, and it has this beautiful lace detail down the sides. So I swatched for this in another yarn. I ended up deciding to go against that yarn, but I will talk about that in a bit. So then I swatched again with this yarn, and I'm super excited for this. So this is BC Garn Alino, and if you are a longtime podcast viewer, you might remember this yarn. I started a shirt in this yarn forever ago. Ended up realizing I probably picked the wrong size, so I frogged it. I've finally gotten around to using it again. So this is 50% linen, 50% cotton. Technically it's a DK weight, but I think it's more of a fingering weight, and that's what I'm using in this pattern. This pattern is written for a fingering weight, and I think this is is pretty close. Even on the ball band, it says to use a US 2 or US 2 to US 4 to get, it looks like it's saying 22 stitches roughly. So I think it's definitely more of a fingering weight. Ravelry categorizes it as a DK. But it's 50 grams for 125 meters. They come in these little donuts. I have no idea what color this is. It's colorway 21. It's just a nice mustard. And this is the leftovers. This is my frogged project. I just caked it all into one giant cake. Never even unramened it, but it really wasn't super ramen-y. But I have cast on this tank top. I am using a US 2 for when I am knitting flat and a US 3 when I will be knitting in the round. I believe a US 3 is what's called for in the pattern, and I hit gauge. I just like to go down for knitting flat. It is a 24 stitch gauge as well, similar to this one. And this is where I'm at. I've just started the back panel, so you cast on, do some increases, and now I'm working on the tiny lace panel that I have and working down the back armhole. So that is where I'm at. Not a ton to show, but I'll be excited for this cotton and linen yarn and a tank top. I think it's going to be luxurious, and I think it's such a beautiful color. So I have about a month to knit this pattern, and then it should be out. And yeah, I'm excited about it. It will come with time, but that's been my main focus project right now. And then I need to cast on some socks, because this one will not be able to be like movie knitting, meeting knitting because of that lace panel, but it'll be a lot of TV knitting. But the other swatch that I did was in Salty Blonde Fiber. The colorway is Speckled Seaside. It's 100% superwash merino, and with this I really liked the gauge that I got. It's not the gauge that would fit in the Seagrass Tank, and I had originally planned to do a mini mock neck tank with this, and so that's what I'm going to cast on, because my gauge is still a little off from the mini mock neck tank, which is a pattern by Jessie Maid. It's also 24 stitches, but I can do the math and I can go up a size to get a size closer to what I would want. And I think in a tank top, this would be gorgeous. And it'll be more of a layering piece. It's got these really delicate speckles. This is the 100% superwash merino, and I'm very excited for this. So I already have this caked up, and because I know I'm hitting gauge, I'll probably cast this on. Honestly, I'll probably cast this on today because I'd like to get some of the shaping done, because once I get the shaping done and I'm in the round, this will be a nice meeting project. And I just like to get some of these. I've been wanting to make that for a while, and just getting some more summer and spring garments will be nice. I did also want to say I tried out a new swatching method. So there's the swatching in the round where you pull your yarn across the back, but there's also this, like, I think they call it faux swatching in the round, where basically you pull out extra string and knit with that, and it makes you have this swatch where you're still knitting every round, but you don't get the loops across the back, and then you can still rip this out if you needed to. So I'll link the video that I used up here. I really liked this swatching method. I think it's something I will use in the future. I think it just makes a pretty swatch. But yeah, I love this colorway, and I think for a tank top it's going to be gorgeous. So that's a future cast on, not even a current work in progress to show you today, but I think I'm going to cast it on once I finish recording today. I also plan to cast on some socks. So yeah, I think that's the afternoon plan. Continue working on my Seagrass tank, cast on my mini mock neck tank, and cast on some socks so I can have some meeting knitting. But overall, I think that's all the projects that I have to show you today. I have no idea how long this video was because I had to keep stopping and starting for things outside, for the battery dying, for getting more water. So we'll see how long it is. I hope you enjoyed hanging out with me today for this little catch up of all my projects. Hopefully I won't be gone for a month next time. I am very excited about this test knit. I hope I can do a little behind the scenes with it. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I wanted to do that for the Bonfire Tee, and then life just got too busy. But maybe I'll be able to do a little more behind the scenes. Maybe a vlog for this next test. We shall see. Thank you for hanging out with me. I hope you put a little bit of love into every stitch of your making today, and I'll see you guys again very soon.